Hello there and welcome back. After the review of the Ultrasheer, I thought, why don't I put together all the pedal that specifically offer that kind of warbly tone that we like and kinda do a comparison. So there's a lot of pedal that do that, but the one that offer it in a very simple way, and the one that I have is these guys here. So we have the Vongon Ultrasheer, the Death by Audio Echo Dream 2, the Fairfield Circuitry Shallow Water, and the Retroactive Pedal Dot Chaser. Each one has a different way on how it works and what it offers, with the Fairfield Circuitry that is the one that is specifically created for that, while this other one do that in a different way. But in the end, each one of these can be used to get that baked cassette warbly tone. I am using the Juno sequenced by the OXI, and I will do that with chords and with a bass or like lead sequence, just to let you understand what's happening, and then we can just try to put things together and make things a little more wild. Before going to that, as usual, the way you can support the page: you can subscribe and share this content, you can buy from the affiliate link down below, and you can become a Patreon. On Patreon I go more in depth with creativity, music, whatever, and also I offer one-on-one lesson if you're interested about that. Okay, so let's just have an overview on what we have here. These three pedals are mono, and this one is the only one that is stereo, so already something to consider. So I put this at the end of the chain, and the signal goes straight in my audio card. The retroactive pedal is basically at its core a delay, very simple one. You have a mix and lag. Lag basically would be your delay time, and then you have a warp and volume control. It's of them all, I feel it's the one that is more geared toward a guitar, because this pedal react as a sort of envelope follower, and the warbliness happen reacting to the volume that come inside the dot chaser. So if you use something that has not a lot of dynamic, it doesn't really work perfectly. For what I use, where most of the time arpeggios or pads have a flat, let's say, volume, is not the perfect pedal. So I added some velocity here, ups and down, to make it work better. At the same time, when you feed it with acoustic instrument or very dynamic audio, it can be surprisingly good. The shallow water is the one that is just a sort of tone warbler. It has more control than any other on this table. For just that, we have a rate and depth of the modulation, a dump that somehow minimize the intensity of it, a low pass gate, a mix, and a volume. I have to say that both of these two can be very sensitive to volume, so they can distort pretty easily. We will listen to that later. Then we have the Echo Dream 2. The Echo Dream 2 at its core is another delay, but with some twist. First, it had a fuzz. Second, you can listen to the delay by itself, and the more you use the longest setting, the sound will be degraded, so it starts getting very lo-fi. Plus, it has a modulator with two waves, a sine and a square, that add pitch modulation, so it had that warbliness. And in the end, the Vongon that I demoed precedently, it is a reverb plus a vibrato, and with the vibrato on the random cycle, on the random wave, it kind of add warbliness. So now that we know what we have in front of us, let's just turn on one by one and listen what happened. So first we will start with the same chord progression for all of them. Very simple. And let's turn on the dot chaser. So first I notice that I have to feed it with a very low volume, otherwise it will distort right away. With the volume it can get pretty crunchy. That might be something that you want, but in this case we want to keep things as possible as similar to the original tone. As you can hear, there's already distortion happening, so let's tune this down. So how this pedal work? You have a mix and a lag. With this setting is the very fast, almost slapback delay. With this you have a more longest delay. Now in a sound like this, you hear not too much, you hear it now. Yeah, let's load it back. So what happened is, like with the warp, you will add warbliness on it, and you can already feel it something. It's in the range of chorusy, detuned. It's not bad. And has some crunchiness to it. Then you have a more switch that will add even more warpness to it. That could be really intense. So the more you would change the velocity of the note, and we will listen better on the other example later, the more this will work. This is interesting if you want, for example, now there is this delay happening with chords, it kind of smear everything together. There's no reverb actually going on, but it kind of sounds like a reverberation. It has its own tone, there's distortion going on, there's grains, you feel it, so it could be very interesting. Let's move now to the Fairfield. The Fairfield has been one of my favorite pedals ever. I have two to make stereo, and even this guy needs control on the volume you feed it. This is the only one that offers this kind of very fast modulation and very you can really feel it. So right now we have a depth to the max, a medium rate. I'm not engaging at all the dampness, the damp and the low pass. So this is what happened. And then you have also a mix, so you can mix the effect. With the low pass, you affect the entire signal, not only the warble part. And with damp, you control a little, so you can find in-between setting that it's not too cheesy. So you go from here. And also I noticed that had a nice crunch tone to it. So it's a great pedal to put at the end of the chain. It works perfectly also with drums, and I really like it, and it's great. Of course, if they would ever do a stereo pedal would be amazing. But with two of them, with different controls, it really opens up the stereo field, and it's pretty great. Let's move now to the Echo Dream. So, Echo Dream, that by audio, you can get a little more volume. First you have a master volume, you have the fuzz, and then you can pull in the delay signal. Since we want to hear only what happened like with this warbliness, we can do push only the delay. You put these, so it mean that you feel the half and half, and like this is a full feedback. So if you use very short delay time, it's, I wouldn't call hi-fi, but almost. But the more you go in longer one, you start feeling artifact introduced to it, a little like the dot chaser. And then you have the modulator, where you can decide between sine and square, and if you put that, you start hearing the warbleness. Now, I wish this has a random waveform. It doesn't. So like this is a little too predictable and doesn't really feel that it's a baked cassette. And so you have to really play with it until you find the sweet spot. And one way that I love to use it is like this. So full wet signal, and then find the right amount of feedback. And that's it. You get another interesting tune. Let's move now to the Vongon. Of them all is the only one that is stereo. So the magic of this is adding both reverb and vibrato. So let's not put too much reverb, so it's more in the warbly. Here it is. Here I put reverb into vibrato because we want to maximize the feeling of the warbliness. And it's pretty great, right? You don't want the effects to be too strong, otherwise it's a gimmick. But right now, it's pretty good. Now, before moving to the other, let's just mix the things together to hear what happened. So I already noticed that these two works really well together. This is if you want to go like in a very baked cassette reel. You have the lo-fi of the Echo Dream that cut a lot of low end. You can add some fuzz, so you can add some distortion, and then you got into the reverb and vibrato, and you make it lush again. Of course, you have to maybe minimize a little, but this is a beautiful tone. The Fairfield had more of a low tone. It sounds pretty good. Maybe if we remove the vibrato here, it's pretty nice still. Let's add the dot chaser. And here right now with the more, it's like the one that gets wilder in the modulation. Of course, you want to hear them all together, right? So let's do it. It's definitely something that you might be interested in doing. It doesn't sound bad. It's really, really losing a lot of high end. The Ultrasheer helped to make it bigger. So it's a fun experiment to get maybe also if you change the order of the pedal, you could get something interesting. We want to do that because too much. The more gets too much sometimes, and like in a not usable way. Okay, let's now load another sound that I prepare, simple here, and another pattern. Here I changed for some note the velocity. For example, someone I put velocity 127, you can hear this difference. So let's now turn on the dot chaser again. First you start feeling that is a delay at this core, right? You can go mix full in, so. And you hear, when the velocity is higher, there's a bigger modulation in the pitch. Let's add more. And you hear, especially now. So if you play, for example, a guitar through it, it's very interesting because the more dynamically you play, the more this guy will react. It's not really matching my lifestyle, my way of playing. But definitely, I hear demos of it with guitar that sounds pretty incredible. With shorter note like this, it's harder to perceive this. So if you put the release and sustain more, you can perceive more. Again, distort pretty easy, so you can lower the volume and then push here. And this is nice too. Let's move to the Fairfield. For example, these compress more the signal, like when it was on, you would feel less the difference in dynamic. With the Fairfield, you feel more the ups and downs. But also, this would be the original signal. Feel how much it kills the thing. So automatically, when you engage this, prepare to lose a lot of ions. And I mean, it's what it's supposed to do, right? Deteriorate in a beautiful way your signal. Let's go back to the original sound and let's tune in the Echo Dream. We are listening, no feedback, just the Let's see if we do. Very nice. I mean, we are using it not in the way has been created, because originally it's echo. So we were just listening to the crunchy, deteriorating vibe. I like this pedal a lot too. Let's go to the Ultrasheer. Let's start. I mean, this of them all, this is the more instant gratification, I feel. It's great sound. It's hard to mix and match here because, for example, this volume is great for these two, but it's too much for this guy. It goes like already distort too much, and I think it's made also to distort the sound. So to keep it nicer, you have to do that. Also, I feel the distortion happen when there's more dynamic, of course, because it triggers more. And here all together, in another way, this can be something that you can use. Still nice, I mean, it's definitely a lot of it, but I really like the combination of these two together. This is the clean signal, and this is sweet. And of course, I love. Okay, let's go to some conclusions. Let's go back to the sound of before. So, what would be my advice if you want one pedal that add this kind of tone? So, if you don't have any reverb and you don't have any other of these things, I feel the Ultrasheer could be a good starting point because it has a beautiful reverb, a beautiful modulation, so it can be a box that really gives a lot. That said, if you really want something specific, the Fairfield Circuitry is still the king. It's just as the control that works pretty well, the low pass gate, it really makes your sound ruined in the most beautiful way. These other two are delay at their core. I used the Echo Dream quite a lot in the recording few of EP that I did. Of course, Death by Audio has always that kind of edge in the distortion, in the fuzz. So if you like to add that to your sound, so add warmth, this is great. And also, it's beautiful, simple to use, and it can add a lot of dough to your sound. The Dot Chaser of them all, I would recommend if you are more of a guitar player, because it really sounds great. You should check other demos of it. For plain synth use, especially if, like me, you work with drones or a chord that doesn't really change, it could be not reacting really well, and it's just the design. It's kind of interesting that has been designed to react to envelope of the sound. So it's something to keep in consideration if you play music. It's great also with piano sound. If you feed it and you play with difference, piano and forte, that this might be one of the funniest to play. If I would have to choose only one for just the warbly thing, my heart goes with the Fairfield Circuitry. The Shallow Water has been there since day one, and I cannot live without. But again, if I would have to choose now what is the best deal, probably the Ultrasheer, because it's a reverb that I would use a lot and tune a vibrato that is pretty nice on everything. So I hope this was useful and give you some idea on how these things work. There's definitely way more pedal that you can use. You can use the Stream-on El Capistan with some setting that will act somehow like the Echo Dream. There's the Zoya from Impress where you can actually create your own device. So there's the GFI Synesthesia that has a lot of setting for doing the detuning and the warbliness, but these are the simple ones that have those control in front of you. So that's why I decided to go with just these 4. All right, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching and ciao.